I just watched the Snow White remake, so you don't have to. It was one of the most anticipated films of 2025, with a lot of hype surrounding it, for all the wrong reasons. It was an absolute disaster of a movie in every aspect. Immediately from the get-go, this movie was doomed to fail because it's a live-action remake nobody wanted. You'd have a better chance at finding a leprechaun than finding anyone who wanted a live-action remake of Snow White. Along with that, the movie faced severe backlash and controversy that I'll also be talking about, and I'd be a damn fool not to make a video on it. Let's just get it out of the way at the start. Is there anything positive about it? It's a great movie for a drinking game. Diving into the negatives now, let's start with the plot. It's a remake of the classic Snow White movie, and they changed a lot of things from the original. Does the film stand on its own two legs? No. If this wasn't marketed as a Disney remake of Snow White, this would have ended up like that Pinocchio movie Lionsgate made back in 2021. A disheveled mess of an adaptation that was so unrecognizable and universally hated, most people forgot it even existed. That's what this movie is. The live-action Snow White differs so much from the original, it feels like I'm watching a fanfic. There were so many creative liberties implemented in an attempt to modernize the story that it took a toll on the narrative and lost some of the magic and charm that made the original so enduring. The plot revolves around Snow White, who in this version is an egotistical brat trying to assert her competence so that she can finally ascend the throne. The evil queen doesn't allow this. She believes only the fairest of them all should rule the kingdom, and Snow White leaves in a fit of frustration. The magic mirror then tells the evil queen, wait a minute, Snow White is the fairest of them all. So she orders a hunter to kill Snow White, and while escaping from him, she stumbles across the home of the 7 dwarves, thus sets everything else into motion. Comparing this to the animated version, one thing that was apparent was how they tried so hard to make Snow White a girl boss, which ultimately made her an unappealing character. Traditionally, the dwarves help Snow White overcome many of her flaws and insecurities, which allows her to come to terms with her own worth. Here, they do nothing. They're basically used as running gags, and this is most apparent within the movie's ending. Traditionally, the dwarves help protect Snow White when the evil queen comes to kill her. However, Snow White doesn't even fight the evil queen, and instead, she's consumed by her own magic and pulled into the mirror dimension after she shatters it in a fit of rage. What the fuck? This change regarding the evil queen's death takes away from the dwarves. In the original, True Love's kiss may have awakened Snow White, but it was the dwarves who were the ones that saved her from being killed in the first place. The movie also leans heavily into the musical elements, which felt excessive. The remake is definitely longer than the original, and I feel like if they trimmed it down by half, the pacing at least would have felt much tighter. Also, I just remembered, the movie is apparently a love story. I didn't get that at all, mostly because the love interest in this version, Jonathan, had no characterization whatsoever. Again, they really wanted to depict Snow White as a strong, independent woman, which ultimately took a toll on fleshing out every other character in the movie. He's not even a prince in this version. He's part of a group called the 7 Bandits, which makes me think they got the plot mixed up with Tangled. I feel like what happened was, after the backlash when it was revealed there weren't going to be 7 dwarves, the writers hastily tried to reincorporate them into what they had already filmed with the bandits, which ultimately just did not work well together at all. The movie tried to juggle multiple themes and tone shifts, resulting in a film that feels more like a patchwork of ideas rather than a cohesive reimagining. It's also really shallow. I'm not sure what they were trying to preach, but they failed in that aspect. There was no reason to even call it Snow White, as it was a completely different telling than the Disney original. The movie isn't empowering, and if anything, it portrays women as self-centered, entitled brats without any skills to merit. The original Snow White was kind-hearted and gentle, doing whatever she could to help those around her, even when it was her that needed help the most. Snow White in the animated version took charge in a way that showed how much she cared for everyone, and based on public perceptions, is far more empowering than whatever Rachel Zegler was preaching. Aforementioned, the film also had a lot of anti-marketing. There was a number of controversies and backlash before the movie even released, one of them being Rachel Zegler's comments on the original movie.
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird.
It's not a good look when the star of the project you're remaking is actively criticizing the essence of the original. Calling it sexist and outdated that's some galaxy brain marketing if I've ever seen. I don't think there's anything wrong when acknowledging when something is outdated. That's part of the reason why remakes exist. But the way Rachel Zegler described it came off as derogatory, and she was so condescending when doing so. Another bit of anti-marketing came from the dwarfinism controversy. Like I said before, the 7 dwarves weren't originally part of the remake, and were initially played by various actors of ethnicities and genders. Which, you know, why are you going to even remake Snow White and the 7 Dwarves if you're not going to include them? This was changed in post, but them being CGI characters now definitely didn't help ease tensions within the dwarf acting community.
This is Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. Why are you hiring Snow White and the 7 average people? Mm-hmm. You know? So if that's what they want to do, then I guess they're going to have a lot of people angry at them.
There was also some drama on social media. Shocking. I'm not going to go in depth, but giving all the cliff notes, some of the cast members got into a debate between standing with Israel or Palestine, and then Rachel Zegler shared this pardoning message after Trump won the 2024 US presidential election. Regardless of your personal opinions, the bottom line is, between the anti-feminist comments and alienating the public with creative liberties and political preferences, all of this has been a PR nightmare that's affected the marketing of this film. I think a reporter on NBC said it best. This may fly over the heads of kids, but parents are the ones who take them to the movies. I will never understand the thought process behind these corporate studios, because you'll have movies like Batgirl and Wile E. Coyote that were received positively and basically finished get scrapped. Meanwhile, despite all the negativity while filming, Disney still chose to release the Snow White remake, which was a mess. It is a fucking mess of a movie in every aspect. It's like they had the playbook to making a successful film just so they could do the polar opposite. It doesn't tell a cohesive story, it's not empowering, there's no creative liberties that make it better than the original, and the marketing was a total failure. So yeah, I just had to talk about this movie because it really was a complete cinematic disaster. It was just a miserable experience, not just from watching the movie itself, but also because of everything leading up to its release. That's really about it. So,